Welcome to the Recruiter Abroad podcast. My name's Dulta Doherty, and in this podcast series, I will be interviewing expat recruiters who have emigrated around the world. This week, I'm speaking to Emma Thompson. Emma's from Manchester. She's been in the industry for over 8 years. She used to be a well-known DJ with Radio 1, and she travelled the world as a DJ and lived that life as much as she could. So much so that she needed to change careers when she turned 30. And it just so happened that her sister was getting into recruitment. They went on to set up their own recruitment firm and ran that successfully for over 6 years. Emma got to a point in her career where she felt that they needed to go their separate ways, and Emma decided to join a company called Engage Infotech. The interesting thing about Emma, other than the amazing story that she has, is that she works remotely. So most of the year she lives in the Isle of Man, and her boss, Seb Butt, who reached out to me this week and suggested Emma as a guest, so massive thanks to him, trusts her to get the work done and make those placements and really do an awesome job for him. So she does most of the year in the Isle of Man, and she's spending the next 6 months in Tenerife. So we discussed about her career, what it's like to work remotely, how she structures her job, and what does she do with her spare time. And she was an amazing guest, and I really, really enjoyed speaking to her. And if you guys enjoyed it, please do give us a little recommendation on LinkedIn or on iTunes. Send it to another recruiter. We have another podcast as well, in case the international thing isn't your thing. We have the Recruiter Abroad Startup podcast, which is running every Wednesday. So this comes out on a Friday. The other one comes out on a Wednesday. And on the Startup podcast, it'll give you a good insight into how to start up, scale, operate, and even sell a recruitment business. And we get lots of well-known recruitment experts who come on and give their 10 cents worth. Anyway, over to Emma, and I hope you are all enjoying the World Cup. Unlucky to England this week, but we've got the final to come, and the weekend is upon us. Take care. God bless.
Hello.
Hi there, Emma. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm the best. Thank you for coming in and rescuing the show at the last second.
You're very welcome. I think maybe it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. All right. So, Emma, I've given everybody just a brief rundown of your background, but can you kind of go into a bit more detail on that and maybe tell us a little bit about what life was like before you came into the agency recruitment?
So, interestingly enough, before I went to university, I actually went into software sales. I was completely wild at the time, so I wasn't very successful and I got sacked. But, that's another story. I was 18. But when I came back out of university, I went back into software where I was I was much calmer and did much better. But then when I was 23, I'd lived in Ibiza when I was 22 for the summer. And when I came back, I actually got asked to go and do a pilot for BBC Radio 1. To have my own show because I was a DJ. So I did that, and then in the December, I got the call to say that I'd got the show. So I gave up my job in software, and I became full-time DJ. I started at Radio 1 in the January.
And what year was this in?
2006.
Okay, fantastic.
So I did that, and then as soon as I joined Radio 1, I got an agent. So then what had been something that I was doing every weekend previously became a full-time job at tours and festivals and things like that. And then the following year, I set up a record label. I was a resident at the time at a club called Sankey's, which was voted #1 club in the world a few times. And that just kind of that was my life then up until I was about 29.
What
Um,
what does the daily routine look
well,
like
the,
of a DJ?
well, there isn't one, which is why it's quite an interesting life. But yeah, I certainly missed structure. After a few years, I really started to miss structure. At first, it was just a massive party, really. But I didn't really manage to deal very well with trying to get things done that I needed to get done, because to me I was just getting paid to party. So I struggled with having any kind of structure in the week, which I needed really for my label and to make sure that I was producing tracks and things like that. But I struggled a bit with the business side of it because it didn't really feel like a job. So for me it was just in the studio and picking tracks and practicing and then traveling most of the time.
And living at night as well, I tell you.
Living at night, yeah, and really sometimes going from country to country to country, you wouldn't sleep properly for like 3 days. And I remember I didn't sleep in my own bed once for 30 days. So it was a wonderful time, but it was challenging on my health really more than anything.
I lived at night for a number of years, running a nightclub. Not as glamorous as what you did, but the one thing you figure out when you're living at night is there's a lot of strange people who come out at night, and then they become your normal. So
Yes, that is very true. I was one of the strange people though, so I was already my normal. But yeah, sleeping till 1 o'clock in the afternoon and things like that, it became a bit of a chore really in the end. And I think I felt quite lonely towards the end because I never could go to family parties, and in the day I was always by myself, and I loved it, but in the end I became quite ill for a number of reasons. I had a few things that kind of just got on top of me, and I collapsed and ended up in hospital, and I left that hospital in a wheelchair.
God.
I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is ME. So for me, that was really the end of that. I had to find a way to claw myself back to health, and that was a journey that took about 3 years. And in that time, there were periods where I couldn't work at all. But when I was well, my sister had her own recruitment business, and she came from software as well, and she focused on technology.
Were you guys based in Manchester?
Yeah, based in Manchester, Rochdale specifically, but always focused on global markets. We never really did much work in the UK. So I was on the radio at the time, but this was coming towards the end, and I had to kind of give up everything. And then we decided to have a go at that together. And because of my background, we always thought we'd do something together anyway. And that's how it started.
Walk us through that first, 3 month period when you and her are you working out of a bedroom? Have you got an office?
Yeah, we had an office.
How did you structure your plan to make it work? Walk us through that piece.
Well, we didn't really. I mean, as you will probably know, the beginning phase of recruitment, my sister was already in recruitment. She'd done a contract for BMC, and my sister had actually set up the channel for AppSense, so she was quite technical anyway, and she was a fantastic salesperson, and she'd always done that. So she already had her own business. We didn't just all of a sudden say, right, should we have a recruitment business? Because that would have been insane. But she already came from that background, and she was doing really well. So she decided to just go after her own clients, which she'd been doing for quite some time. And she was focusing on quite senior appointments, and enterprise sales really were her speciality. And she was starting to go after more kind of sales director, country manager, that kind of thing. So
what type of countries were you going after?
Most of our work at that time was in places like Germany, America. We did a lot of stuff in America, the Middle East, Dubai. We were doing quite a lot of stuff there. I was doing a lot of stuff on the East Coast of America in New York. We did a contract for Salesforce, which was all over Europe. Did a contract for Citrix and Cisco, both all over Europe. So yeah, never much stuff in the UK. A couple of startups who wanted enterprise salespeople, but mostly it was Germany and France and the Nordics. And
how did you win those major accounts?
Well, she did that at that time because I was new to it. So that was Natalie's, my sister Natalie. That was her kind of flair for business development, which has led on to my own. That's probably my area of speciality. Anybody in the office that engage who wants a new business call, I do it and I bring the customer on. So I learned quite a lot from her. But the thing about us is that we're just we're really human, and recruitment can be really corporate, and we're just not like that. And for some reason, people like it. We're really human. We bring humor, but we also are articulate and we know what we're talking about. So yeah, at that time, I wasn't bringing on new clients because I didn't even understand job descriptions. So it was just a really, really steep learning curve, and it took some time.
And where were you getting your candidates from?
Where were we sourcing them?
Yeah, because you're obviously working different marketplaces. LinkedIn probably wasn't as prevalent as it is right now. It was.
No, it was better then, because now it's completely oversaturated. So then it was just, if you send a punchy message 6 years ago, my response rate was pretty much every single person that I messaged. So LinkedIn and Zing have always been our main approaches. It's been the last few years that I've started using other ways of finding people, social media. Twitter is something that I use quite a bit now, and other ways of finding contact details and stuff like that. But back then, LinkedIn was extremely successful for the kinds of people that we were looking for, because we weren't. I find the harder roles to fill are, a junior account manager who's got a year's experience. If you give me an enterprise sales role, I mean, now again, like I said, because it's so oversaturated and they get so many irrelevant messages, it kind of it does a disservice that they get so many messages that aren't relevant. They just think we're all the same. But then I found it really easy to get response out of people.
Yeah, the junior roles are harder to qualify because they're personality driven in the decision making process. Where the senior ones, you can go, well, here's the results. Look, there's a track record, and they've done it similarly. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think that just the more junior ones are normally quite flaky as well, so not as committed. So you're chasing people for a lot longer, and there's just so many more of them. The more senior you get. I work on some managing director positions and senior managers, and the more senior you get, the easier it is. I did a CTO role for an AI software startup, and every single person that I reached out to responded. I had 6 people in process in a week for a CTO, and that was the biggest fee that I've ever brought in. And it was probably the easiest I've ever done.
And tell me, so you guys kind of got up and got some wins on the board pretty quick. Did you scale out from there? Did you hire other recruiters, or how did that process look?
We got to the point where my sister wanted to bring on somebody else. It was somebody she knew, and I don't think it really worked that well. But in terms of my sister and what she wanted, my sister is just not. She's probably the least corporate person you could ever wish to, you could ever meet in your life. So it was never really her plan. She didn't want to have a recruitment company with 15 people working for her in an office. She wanted to choose who she worked with, get the fees that she wanted, and bring in, personally herself, bring in 250, 300 grand a year for her. So me coming in was just an extension of that, but there was never a plan for it to go beyond that, because that's just not what she wanted. She wanted to be able to go to the gym when she wants to. She wants to be able to, take the afternoon off. And she's got a young daughter, and work-life balance was so huge that the whole point of her having the organization was so that she could have the life that she wanted. And that wouldn't have been the case if she was, scaling up and hiring and training more people.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of done that myself. I haven't. I've decided not to go down the scalable route. I regretted it sometimes, but.
Well, it's a lot more pressure, isn't it? And as you and I briefly discussed before, the feast or famine moments, it can get very twitchy. Where if it's been a few months and, you might have brought in 100 grand in the first quarter, but then if it's 3 months later and you've not had anything, it's very, very easy to start getting very nervous. So I do understand why people would want to scale up and alleviate that pressure, but at the same time, it's not for everyone to be running an organization like that if they don't want the added time that comes with that.
So you brought on somebody. Did you mention it didn't really work out?
Yeah, it didn't really work out because I think there was we all kind of had eventually a responsibility to bring on new business, and this person just wasn't a new business person, and there wasn't enough, in such a small organization, there wasn't enough work to share. We needed to be bringing on our own clients, and so that's why it just didn't really work out.
So there were some lessons learned there from.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and it was a friend as well, which can always be tricky. Yeah.
So did it more or less go the same way for the 6.5 years you were working together?
Yeah. It was great. Again, because of my period of getting back to health, I've only been well for a couple of years. So it was difficult times for me because I'd have to take 3 months off occasionally to recover when sometimes I was sleeping for 20 hours a day and trying to work whilst being in that state when I couldn't brush my teeth, I couldn't get up the stairs, and trying to work. And in the end, I just had a bit of a meltdown and had to take quite a considerable amount of time off. So it was lots of starting again for me. It was back to the drawing board, because obviously it takes so much time to build up a pipeline. And you obviously know all those things that can go wrong along the way. You need to have a lot of balls in the air. So I would then have to come back and start again. So it was certainly challenging. But it was, we did really well together. We enjoyed working together. And again, as I mentioned to you earlier, the only reason why I came away from that, which was a very cushy, nice life, and lots of doing what we wanted and going shopping together and going to the gym together, and that side of things was difficult to give up. But at the same time, when things were tougher, it was putting such a huge strain on our relationship that it was weekend and all we were talking about was work and getting stressed out. And in the end, I just didn't feel that anything was worth that, which was why I decided to go somewhere else, which is
So that I find fascinating. You're giving up a tremendous amount to save your personal relationship with your sister. I've been running this business for 3.5 years, and I think it would be hard for me to go back and work for somebody else. How did they tempt you to join? Like, what was really in it for you?
Well, the thing was, they'd actually reached out to me a while before, and I just sent them a message back saying, not right now, but this person might be interested. And I think he remembered me from that, because I'd been nice and done something for free. So when it came to us having these kinds of conversations, I just said, look, again, it's a lot of strain on. It was a lot of strain on us that I was ill for a lot of the time as well.
Yeah.
So once I'd had a year under my belt of being well, I just decided. I mean, that in itself was a huge process, but we just had that conversation. And the situation that I have right now, it's not hugely dissimilar. I mean, I'm much stricter because I'm working for someone, but I'm still at the moment, I'm in Tenerife. I've got a pool outside. I've got a gym in the building that I go to at lunchtime. And so I get it done, and I do what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not in an office. So I don't think I ever in a million years would have made the decision that I'd made had they not been flexible with me doing homework. I will never ever go back to working in an office. If you paid me 100 grand basic, I just wouldn't do that. So the situation that I've got, I'm a really disciplined person anyway. I get up at 4:30 a.m. 3 times a week to CrossFit. I train twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, and I'm just an extremely focused individual. So for me, it doesn't matter that I'm working for someone else, because I get done what I need to get done, and I'm not in an office. So that's the difference. I don't feel like I've given up too much, because I've not gone into corporate world where I have to go and sit in traffic in the morning. I'm still quite free like that, and that's the difference.
So let me take you back a step. You mentioned the Isle of Man. How did that come about?
My partner's from the Isle of Man, so after a year of back and forth visiting each other once every 2 weeks, at first I thought I would, I thought it would be the other way around, but after I'd spent time there, because I'm I'm obviously not the person that I was when I was DJing and traveling the world. I like to be near the sea, and I like nature, and I like calm.
you know, you need a bit of zen in your life.
Yeah, I do, and it keeps me out of trouble as well. But yeah, I just loved it there. I loved the energy there. There's no crime, there's no pollution, there's no traffic, and it's just for me. After I was spent a year back and forth, I didn't really want to stay in the UK at that point, so I decided to move there.
How did that conversation go with your boss?
Well, my boss was my sister at the time, so
Ah, right. So you were out there at the time. Okay.
yes, yeah, yeah.
And then you're out there, you're working with and for your sister, and you make the decision, okay, right, I'm going to move on to another company.
Mhm.
Did they hire you on the basis that you were remote already?
Yes.
Do they have
Yeah,
lots of other people that are remote?
no, no, but they do have an office in Greece where I think I'm not sure if there's a couple of people there, but there's quite a senior person over there, and they had a small office in Manchester. So it wasn't that everybody was in London and I was just on my own. They were quite spread out, but I have been the first person to be working remotely.
No,
The way
no,
I do.
and I mean you've been doing this a long time, and you're mature, and you're driven and all the rest. Um, how hard is it for most people to work remotely, do you think?
Do you know what? I can tell you now. My partner is we've just come to Tenerife to take 7 months here because she's been unwell, and I just want her to. I want her to finish her studies. I wanted her to not have a job, and I just wanted her to get some sunshine because we had a bit of a scare with her last year, a cancer scare, and she's still got enlarged lymph nodes. So I said, right, that's it. Nothing is worth this. Let's go and get some sun, and we'll get you well. She cannot concentrate. I'm 35, she's 27 next. She cannot sit and concentrate. And she would work from an office on the Isle of Man. She said to me in the first couple of weeks, she said, I cannot believe how much you do. She went, you don't even take a full lunch hour. You start early, you finish late. She said, I don't know how you do it. And she has to have breaks just from studying. She has to go and get her shopping in. She has to go and sunbathe because she does not have the discipline, and she does not have the attention to do it at all, and she can't get her head around it.
I have lots of recruiters reach out to me and say, oh, could you get me a remote job so I could live somewhere? Um, I just don't know many employers that would put that amount of trust in somebody. You probably would need to have somebody like yourself that's been doing it for 7, 8 years, and kind of really knows what they're doing. Is there any checks and balances that they do with you in your desk?
Well, the first when I first got the job, I went to spend the week with them, and even before I started, I asked them to give me a search that I could start working on, so that when I got in there, I could hit the ground running. So the first couple of days I got in there, I submitted about 8 people for a really like senior role at Capgemini, and that was just work I'd done on my own. So I think that was a kind of indication of what I'm like. But before I got my new laptop, there were things on there like that shows activity and productivity and stuff like that. But they just know I brought in 255K, I think, in my first year, and that was after ramp up. So I actually did that in 7 months, which I think is quite good for a first year.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. So when I asked them if I could go to Tenerife, there's two. There's Seb, who's directly my boss, but they're both, Ash has the pharma side of the company, and it's normally him that I have my check-ins with about my pipeline, where I'm up to, and that kind of thing. And I just said, would you mind? She's not been very well and a bit worried. And he said, Emma, we don't actually care where you work from. And the thing is, it's not just a normal job where you just get paid a certain amount of money. If I want to earn more money, I need to place people. And especially at the moment, I'm looking after two of us. So I'm more focused than ever. I've had a really, you will know this coming from the industry, I've had a really bad run recently with counter offers and people contracts taking too long and then them taking something else. I've had about 5 offers on the trot. One guy verbally accepted, and then when he checked his contract, it was 3 months, so they said no. And this is about 5 or 6 people on the trot I've had go down after people had accepted. So I've had a bad run, but my pipeline is absolutely insane, and I know I'm likely to do probably.
No, I think that's it, isn't it?
In the next 6 months.
The best people, they don't get too excited when it's going well, and they don't get too down when it's not. I mean, I set up this business with my wife Charlotte. She hasn't really been in the business the last few years. We have 2 kids under 2 now, so she's just had our second wee fella, and you know, I go home every couple of hours. I get handed a child, and then she has the spreadsheet out saying, this deal fell over. We're renovating the house. We've just bought this house. We're renovating the upstairs next month. You need to get back out and get the next deal. So that's
it is tough. I think I'm a really resilient person, and I can push it off. But the run I've had recently, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I actually cried. Not last week, the week before, I actually cried because so much had happened in a short space of time. And I just said to my boss, I said, can we talk? I said, I just really need to sound this off. I said, I literally cannot do any more than I'm doing. And the amount of business I've had that fall through. One was a managing director where he actually was getting his contract drawn up, and it was a huge fee. And then last minute, the lady in India said, you know what, he is brilliant, but can we just have a quick look around and see if there's anything else? And they gave it to someone else, and I'd already given them all these contract details. So yeah, by the time that happened 5 times, I had to speak to my boss. I said, look, please don't be concerned that I'm not doing what I should be doing. I said, but I really feel like everyone's against me at the moment. But once I got it off my chest, I felt better. But that was probably the most I've ever felt like.
I try and keep 3 or 4 good close friends, former colleagues of mine, close enough where, you know, something will happen. I'll go and I'll get a pint of Guinness and I'll sit by myself in the local bar, kind of sending out signals like, don't come near me, leave me alone. And I'll just be on WhatsApp back and forth with them, just making sure that their day's just as shit as mine.
Yeah, exactly. I've got my sister for that. She spoke to me yesterday. She went, I think you've passed on to me your absolutely everything falling through. And I should have felt bad, but it just made me feel better.
It does. But look, I also think it's summer. I think people go on holidays and people get relaxed, and it's just a nightmare time to do business, you know, especially if you're doing international stuff. And you know, the weather's nice and nobody wants to actually, for me, moving UK recruiters around the world, nobody wants to leave now. So all we need now is the weather to turn. We're ready to rock
again.
So Emma, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed your story. You're just before I go, you mentioned you're doing a bit of Thai boxing. What does your average day look like now as a remote recruiter?
So my average day now is I get up at 4:45 a.m.
You lunatic.
I get picked up at 5 o'clock. I go to CrossFit at 5:30 for an hour and 20 minutes. Come home. Depending on how wired or knackered I am, I might get back into bed for an hour till 8 o'clock. And then I'll get up. I normally start work then. I'll work till 5 o'clock minimum, but normally longer than that.
How do you structure your day in that time?
So I just have a look at how many roles I've got on, and I kind of prioritize them in terms of urgency, and then I spend normally when I've got loads of work on and they're all urgent, I'll spend a full day on each role. So say I've got, 5 or 6 roles, I'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on different roles. Sometimes I'll do a couple of hours on each and keep switching back and forth, but it depends on how urgent they are. But I've probably the only person on the planet who's actually got a physical diary, and I always write in, what day I've spoken to someone so that I can trace the CV in 3 days, and that's all physical for me because I don't get it the same when it's on my laptop. So really, it's just searching, isn't it, and calls, and you just have to prioritize. I brought on DXC Technology this year as well. And they're giving me roles every week. So I also have to manage that relationship fully, as well as everybody else in the office back in the UK who are also working on those roles. So that's taken quite a lot of time at the moment, submitting people for other people. But obviously that's my account. So it's win-win whether somebody else places or whether I place. And that
do you get a split on that? Yeah.
So if someone else places, I get less. But obviously if I place, I get more. So yeah, it's just I've got a lot of work at the moment. So normally, for me, like I'll have something to eat, which will take about 15 minutes. But I never take an hour unless my head's frazzled. I'll go to the gym for an hour. But normally I'm just too busy, and I normally work until about 5:30, quarter to 6, and then I go training from at least from 7 until 9 p.m. From Muay Thai, and that's 5 times a week, and then twice a week I have to get up and go do a 7K run. So that's what my week looks like at the moment. I'm absolutely exhausted.
Oh my God, when's the fight?
26th of August.
26th of August. And so you're cutting weight.
I'm currently 60 kilos, and I'm 5'8", and I've got to get to 56 kilos. Now I've just done so much training this week that I can't even begin to tell you. I'm burning at least 1,000 calories a day, and I've not lost any weight. So I've had a total meltdown, and I've been all over Facebook to my personal trainer saying, "Why am I not losing weight when I'm training this much?" But I think the common consensus is that I'm totally overtraining and pretend I'm not eating enough. So I'm going to have to try and figure out what to do with my food as well, which is another added pressure in the week.
There you go. All right. Well, can you just tell us a little bit about the business that you work for before you go? Just to give a shout out to Sebastian Butt for coming in and saving the day and offering you up as a guest.
Tell you a little bit about what, sorry?
The business that you work for, Engage.
Engage, yeah. Oh, they're wonderful. As I mentioned, recruitment is very corporate and very cutthroat. The guys I work for are just, I think I really, really landed on my feet when I met these guys. They're just hugely supportive, really, really good guys, extremely encouraging. They're there if you need them, but they know that I just crack on. Seb is our chief rainmaker, so he just brings on clients for fun. And they've got a really young team in there that have come on so much under their leadership in the last couple of years. It's been nice to see, because obviously it's a huge learning curve. Everyone's doing really well, and the company's going through huge growth now. So from where we were when I first joined to where we are now, and the clients that we've got, think me coming on board, I brought on quite a few clients in the first year. I brought on App Dynamics, I brought on a Sysdig, I brought on the software company around AI, an outsourcing company in America. I've brought on DXC Technology. So I think, it's enabled us to kind of, and Seb he's just amazing at managing relationships and bringing clients on. So we're in a really, really interesting position. We're hiring all the time at the moment. We've just hired a German speaker to help us with some of our German roles. She's really great. And we've just brought on a more senior person as well, who's done a lot of technical recruiting. So we've got a good, strong team and a really, really nice, supportive, just a really positive environment to work in.
All right, Emma. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
No problem. Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Well, a massive thank you to Emma for coming on the show and sharing her story, especially at last minute. And a massive thank you to her boss, Seb, for reaching out and suggesting her. Really enjoyed our conversation.
And I love the fact that she's working remotely and they let her and they trust her to do it. You really don't need to be stuck in an office with a stupid suit and tie on, doing what you're told in a regimented way. You can do that from anywhere. You know, we've enough technology now to get this job done anywhere. And when people are in the industry and they know their stuff, we really should be trusting them to get the job done. And I think it would go a long way to reducing the turnover of people who just come into our industry, do it for a couple of years, or even just do it for a couple of months, give us an even worse name, and then move on to something else and blame the industry. Anyway, she was a great guest, really, really good, and best of luck to her in the fight game. Fair play, wouldn't fancy it myself. All right, till next week, we'll have another guest. Hopefully he is going to be feeling better. He knows who he is. And we will be discussing Asia. All right, take care. God bless. Good luck.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.